Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring some products from Picket Fence Studios. I am using the Penguins Just Want to Have Fun stamps and dies, as well as the Glacier, and we are going to be doing a little scene card using the OLO markers. So here I'm just getting my placement right for where I need to do my ink blending. This is just, what is it? Post-it note tape? I think it's post-it note, 3M post-it note tape. And I'm just using that to create my horizon. This stamp set, it's just still in its stamp set. So I could just see that it was going to fit on there nicely. And then I'm going to do some ink blending for the sky. I picked a couple of fun colors because I knew that it was going to be like a lot of teal. I knew there was going to be a lot of teal. And so I didn't want the sky to be blue or just blue, because I was trying to bring some more interest into the scene. So I'm using scattered straw, saltwater taffy, worn lipstick, and salvage patina. You probably could just pick one or the other for the saltwater taffy and the worn lipstick. They're pretty close. And so there wasn't much of a difference between blending them together. I probably could have just picked one or the other and it would have been fine. So that's what we're doing there. I'm living on the edge. So my husband is currently like 2 hours away. A friend of his family's passed away and they're doing the funeral out where he was from. So he got up super early to go to the services for that. So I'm solo parenting right now. Caitlin is taking a nap and Peanut is downstairs playing video games. Do I know if this baby is going to let me get this voiceover done? No, ma'am. No, I do not know, but I'm out here risking it for the biscuit. Like I'm doing what I can. I put the dogs outside because it's probably like 42-ish degrees. My dogs like colder weather, so this is like perfect for them. I have no control over any of the noises in my house right now. That is why it is called living on the edge, because the baby could start crying. My child could start being loud with his video games, or my dogs could start barking at something that's happening 6 blocks over. Do I know if any of this will happen? No, I do not. But if I don't ever just like, okay, I'm just going to do it, I'm just going to risk it, then I would never get anything done. And isn't that the motto of all parents? So I did my ink blending, and I just went back through. I always like to do mine twice, just because I feel like I get a better blend, but I really wasn't loving the way that the pink was blending in to the blue or the yellow, so I did have to go back over that 1 or 2 times, and then ultimately I ended up being okay with the way that it looked, and then I'm going to remove the tape, and we will move on to the coloring. I could have done ink blending for the water, but I really wanted to see how the OLO markers would do with covering a large background. If you missed my review on the OLO markers, they're half markers. That's what I purchased. So each side is a different color, because that's how I put them together, which is a little bit... there was one commenter who worded it like it was a little bit like jarring or disconcerting the way that it looked when you're coloring, because normally the end of the cap that we see while we're watching me do this matches the color that I'm putting down. But because these each have 2 different color caps, like because they're 2 different color markers, it is not always the case. Like here, in this case, you can see this like bright yellow green, but what I'm putting down is a blue green, because they're 2 colors combined into the same marker barrel. It's very weird, and I'm still figuring out how I'm going to work with that, because I am so used to showing you guys my combination at the beginning and then just moving on. I tried very early on in my YouTube video making career to take the caps off, but because I'm a paper turner, I almost always end up like slinging the caps all over the place. So that didn't really work for me. So I'm trying to figure out another way to make that work when I'm using these markers. I'm not sure that there is a solution, but if you have an idea, I am open. Please share with me. So in order to do the water, you can see I'm doing a bunch of kind of like long, thin triangles, leaving lots of highlights. And then for the highlight section, I will go in with my lightest color. That's what I'm doing here. And just kind of filling this in. The long kind of triangles mimic the movement of the water. And so it definitely gives a different texture. I didn't feel like I had a lot of good dimension, so I did go back in with my darkest blue-green and then just kind of add a little bit more darkness right up against the highlights so that there would be more dimension. And then I was pretty happy with the way that it looked. Now, this next part is completely unnecessary because at the end of the day, everything that I put on top of it, you couldn't even see this part. But this is just how my brain works when I'm doing a scene card. So I used a brighter yellow. I put my little sun there at the back. And then I wanted to do the reflection of the sunset off of the water because that is how it would look in real life. So that's why I'm going in with these yellow and pinks. But ultimately, by the time we put all of our little characters and imagery onto this card, you literally can see none of this. So here's how to do it if you're going to do a card where you can see it. But if you're making this card where you're going to be putting lots of things over it, don't waste your time. It is completely unnecessary. But anyway, if you wanted to do that, if you wanted to do the reflection, you would just put your colors of your sky into the areas that are your highlight. That would be where you would put them down because that's where they would catch the light where they were coming up. And then I did go in with my lightest kind of blue-green and, blend these a little bit better so they weren't so stark. And then the background's going to be done. We're going to set that aside and we're going to move on to our stamping. So for the stamping, originally, I was going to stamp them in black because that's my go-to. But then I thought, let me give it a try with like a no line look. Not completely, because they don't match exactly. But I ended up stamping it in this Bermuda ink from Hero Arts, which is like a good mid-tone kind of teal color. And I actually really ended up liking the way that this looked. The outline was bold enough that I didn't... Oh, I'm losing my voice. My bad. Of course, why wouldn't I lose my voice in the middle of a voiceover when it would be most inconvenient? Because sometimes life just works like that. So anyhow, it was still bold enough that I didn't have an issue following the lines. But it wasn't so bold that it was like what a typical outline image would look like. For my penguins, I obviously stamped them in black because their little bodies are black. And that was accurate. So I stamped them down. I stamped down 4 of them. There was some more penguins in this set that's like super cute that I didn't even use. But you'll notice that they're all kind of different sizes. This will be something that is important to pay attention to when we're constructing our card because of perspective. Now, I told you I had no control over the sounds in my video. My dogs are barking. At what, you ask? No idea. Did they even know? No, they probably do not. But there they are, doing it anyway, because they are wild. They're not domesticated whatsoever. That's not true. They are. Actually, now I can see a dog in the corner, and there's nothing happening, and they're barking at literally nothing. Maybe they see something I don't see. I don't know. Anywho, back to the coloring. So I'm going in, and some of the things that you'll see me putting down don't make any sense. Like the little triangles of color that aren't connected to any of the actual stamp lines. The reason that I am putting them down is to give the little glaciers or the little ice caps more shape and to make them more interesting so they're not just flat. And then anywhere that like the glacier was drawn with a line where there's clearly 2 different sections of it, I just picked one or the other to push it behind so that way, again, there's parts that are pushed forward. The other thing that I'm going to do with this to make it fit into my scene better, because remember I have a sunset going on in the background, is I'm going to have my glaciers cast a shadow onto this bottom portion of it, like the floor portion of it. So that's what you see me kind of mapping out here. If the sun was behind it, they would have a shadow in front of it. I don't know, honestly, by the time all is said and done, if this is really even noticeable in the complete card. You'll have to tell me if you noticed it before you saw this portion. But that was the game plan behind putting that in. And then we're just going to work our way out to our lightest color. And again, I was pretty happy with the like stamping in the mid-tone kind of teal. I felt like it was still enough, because no line Copic coloring, look at, I get so used to saying certain things. No line coloring with alcohol markers can be overwhelming because you kind of lose the lines. But because this is such a large image, there really weren't any lines to lose. And so it ended up really being kind of like just like outline coloring to me. Like it wasn't stressful at all, and I wasn't like, oh, where'd all the things go? It was pretty apparent where all of the things went. And then you'll see on the floor here that I'm also doing a little bit more of those like triangle type looks that I did with the water, because, you know, they're frozen water. And also just to give it some texture so that it wasn't just flat. So what were we talking about before my dogs rudely interrupted me? Isn't that just, I mean, I love them, don't get me wrong, but the incessant barking at absolutely nothing. And like, you don't want to correct them. You don't want to tell them not to bark, because like they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Because if someone just walks up in my house, you know, they're supposed to bark. That's their job. But the barking at nothing is like their perceived threat versus a real threat. Challenging sometimes. And even like us, like if I go outside because we have an outside refrigerator, so like if I go out there, that's where I keep my coffee creamer. If I go out there to get it and then come back in, sometimes they bark at me, and I'm like, bro, I live here. We have been together like your whole life. You don't recognize me. You don't know who I am. I'm a stranger all of a sudden. What's happening? But I think part of that has to do with Molly. I think as she's getting older, she might be losing her hearing. And so sometimes she's sleeping and then like it surprises her. But anyway, back to the coloring. So the penguin bodies are black, which obviously is stamped down with a stamp. But their white section, I didn't want to leave uncolored and flat. So I am going in with some grays. When I did my OLO review, I shared with you that in addition to the 64 half marker set, I also bought the grays because I know that I use them in my coloring. And that is true. I would not have been able to color this card without some semblance of a gray marker. So that was a good purchase for me. Speaking of purchasing them, I apologize for not sharing it earlier. We're like 13 minutes in, but if you pieced out before this, I don't feel bad that you're not getting the discount code. I have a discount code for 10% off if you're interested in picking them up, whether it's a set or a single marker or the accessories. Like, it's good for the whole website. It is Kelly, all lowercase, and I will put that below in the description if you're interested. So then it just came time to color their accessories. I went with, see, this is another one that's really tricky because it looks like I'm coloring them brown, but I'm not. It's actually a bright orange. There has to be a way. There must be a way to fix this, because I also don't like it, and I know what color I'm using because I'm doing the coloring. Tell me if it bothers you. Maybe it's just a me thing. I don't think it's a me thing. But nonetheless, tell me if you have any ideas on how to fix it, or if it even bothers you. So I'm coloring the accessories. I kind of picked the accessory colors out of the colors of the sky. So I'm using like a corally color, using a yellow. I did end up using some teal, but then I ended up changing that, and you'll see that when we get further along, because it was too much teal. There's a lot a lot of teal in this card. So I really didn't need it as an accessory color. For her little tutu, I am coloring it. Ultimately, at the end of this card, you will see none of this. No tutu whatsoever. Originally, my game plan was in the layout that I was going to put this little penguin behind a like piece of the glacier, like a little ice mound, and then her tutu would almost look kind of like a raft, like you would just be able to see the top of it. But I didn't end up using this one. I ended up using the one with the crown, and then this one got stuck behind another glacier, but ultimately you cannot see her tutu. So this is the whole tutu colored with the coral, and then I realized that it looked way too red. And so I went in, I picked a lighter pink. That was not enough. So then I picked a darker pink, and then that worked pretty nicely. It's definitely darker than the original intention, but not so dark that it got rid of all of my shading, and so I was happy with that. For the one in the bottom right-hand corner, I just colored in his little party hat with all of the colors that I previously used, because it's just striped, and I didn't do any shading to that, and then I colored in this little envelope. So they have a bunch of different sentiments in this set, which is super cute. And I knew I had to get this video up because we're running out of winter months, people. Like, it's happening. I'm excited about it. We're on to spring. Tomorrow I will have a video that's nothing but flowers. But so now I'm using their die cuts to cut everything out to then start building our scene. What was I saying about there was something about the penguins. What was I saying about the penguins? I don't remember. We'll come back to it if it comes up again. That's the only downside to having this voiceover situation is you guys, the sentiments. Now it makes sense. We're full circle. This is where I decided to change the note card color. It was just too much teal. And so I went over it with one pink and made it kind of like a purpley blue. I didn't love that, and so then I went over it with the coral color, and that was better. And then it was different enough that I was okay with it. But the sentiment I chose said, "We're so excited for you," and it sounds like I don't know, like an encouragement card or congratulations card, which totally could be, but my intention is to use it for birthday. That is what I will be using it for, because that's pretty much the only cards I give are birthday cards. So that is my intention for that. I'm sorry, we're super excited for you. My bad, I misquoted. And then once that was stamped, now I'm going to start kind of building everything up. I will be hiding. This is the little penguin I told you I'm going to hide behind the glacier, and ultimately you see none of her little tutu. Oh, like none of it. She's just hello peeking out from behind there, which I thought was really cute. Because that's, I don't know, it's just a cute scene. Somebody had mentioned in a recent video that I did that had some more kind of like cute images that they had asked that I make more cards like that, and I'm totally here for it. It's not like I don't have the stamps to do it. I'm just more drawn to florals. So, but I totally do. So if this is something that you're interested in seeing, please let me know in the comments so I know what we're looking for. Let's talk about perspective. So this penguin is the biggest penguin. That penguin needs to go up front because if it's bigger, it's closer. If it's smaller, it's further away. This penguin with the balloon, very tiny penguin. So he goes at the back of the glacier, and now they look like they make sense. If I put the big one in the back and the small one in the front, the small one is then going to be perceived as being a little teeny tiny baby penguin. What's a baby penguin called? I don't know. We'll have to Google that. And so that's why he has to go in the back so that the scene makes sense. For this one, I actually put foam tape on it and then took it back off. I'm really not feeling the foam lately. I'm totally okay with flat cards. So now that's the penguin that I hid underneath there. I realized I adhered him down a little bit too far. Thank God for forgivable like glue. That's why I love the Tombow multi-glue. It gives me some wiggle room. So I was able to just pick that back up, scoot it up a little farther, and then so I can make that other little like ice mound a little bit further down, and then I put this one here. And then you guys know I don't love a white outline, no secret. So I went in and colored in the outline to match the background. Mostly it was just this teal color, quite honestly, because that's the entirety of the entire that's the whole card, is just teal. Maybe I should have gone over like the water with a blue or something to switch it up, but I didn't. I also added glitters because I love some shimmer and shine, and isn't ice always kind of shimmery, shiny? I think so too. So I added that, and then I went in and added some white highlights to my characters as well as to the glaciers. I did a little polka dot on this card, which I thought was super cute, and added a highlight to the balloon as well, before like I moved on to, doing the little glaciers. And then that's it. That is the whole card. So the OLO markers performed wonderfully. They did really well with full coverage. I would definitely say that they are comparable to most other alcohol markers. They're just more customizable. So yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I appreciate your time, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.